Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. So I have a couple of quick announcements before we get started for today. First thing is we have an almost full deck for next week, so I'm really excited for that. Performers, anyone signed up to perform next week should have gotten a program in their email this afternoon. So give that a look. It'll give you the order for next week, and we'll be all set to go. The second thing, this online sign up is working so much better than I anticipated. That I'm reducing that 2-week moratorium. Our original plan was you've got to sign up at least 2 weeks in advance of your performance. I'm reducing that to 1 week. This is going really quickly. It's really easy. So the deadline will be 1 week before the performance date. So you can sign up until 7 days prior. With that said, next week we've got our regular class full of, I think we have 8 performances next week. The week after that, we have an ensemble coming in to perform for us, an outside group. The week after that, February 9th, I have one lone wolf signed up thus far. So if you've got anything that is either ready now or will be ready by February 9th, please hop on that sign-up form and give us something to get excited about for the 9th. If you are walking past my office and you think, hey, maybe I want to sign up to perform for class, there's a QR code on the bulletin board right outside my office. You can just scan it with your phone and it'll take you right to the sign-up sheet. So I'm doing everything I can to make this as easy as possible. So with that, I'm so excited to introduce our 2 guests for today. So to my left here, I have Dr. Lois Carmie, who is a professor of law, humanities, and colloquium here at FGCU. Originally from Boston, Massachusetts, she was the director and owner of a dance, voice, and performance studio in Weston, Mass, before moving on to her undergraduate degree in sociology and art therapy from Regis College. At Regis, she founded Sounds of Silence, World of Dance, which offered dance to multiply handicapped students in the Regis College dance studio. As a vocalist in Naples with several duos and trios, she has also performed with Bauer School of Music pianist Miguel Montalvan Santiago for FGCU events. She studies concert harp with Richard Fleischer, the principal harpist of the Naples Phil, and is a member of the Naples Harp Ensemble. In addition to teaching criminal law and constitutional law, she created 2 courses for justice studies, the entertainment and copyright law class and a disability justice course. The Yes I Can course examines what the arts do for persons with exceptionalities and disabilities. This class is now internationally connected with the University of Siena, Italy. Dr. Carmie is the author of Yes I Can, her first motivational book for different learning styles. Yes I Can Dance is her second book, which is about the many heroes she has taught who have multiple handicaps and exceptionalities. Also to my left is Professor Alessandra Romano, an associate professor of teaching and learning methods at the University of Siena. She has a particular strand of research on transformative learning, experience-based learning methods, and diversity management and inclusive leadership approaches. She is a member of the editorial board of the journal Educational Reflective Practices. She is also a member of the board of the Transformative Listening Project. Professor Romano is the coordinator of the certification program for teachers for special education at the University of Siena. We are so excited to have both of these guests here. And before I give them the microphones, Dr. Cimarusti is going to jump over and make a couple of quick announcements.
Hello, everybody. We got a lively group here. I just had a couple announcements. I'm handing out a white sheet of paper on behalf of our guests today, and we would really appreciate it if you would take the time to fill this out as they talk, right? So break out a pencil. Who does not have a handout? Not everybody. Is everybody? Not everybody? Okay, I'll come around if you can have one. Just raise your hand. I'll be happy to help you. But if you can please fill that out for our guests, that would be really helpful to them. And of course, it'll be helpful for us if in fact we can get Dr. Carmie to participate more here on campus. The other 2 things I wanted to mention to you is if any of you are interested, and some of you already participated, I do a lot of music outside the community. If there's anybody here who plays bass, or drums or guitar, I'm very interested in talking to you about doing some service hours or creating or making some little extra cash doing some gigs here, right? And a couple of you know what I'm talking about. So I need a bass guitarist and a drummer. Also, lastly, if anyone is interested on doing a study abroad, I had 15 people signed up to go on a Japanese study abroad with me before the year of the pandemic, and that fell out of the water because of the pandemic. But any of you who might be interested in doing study abroad with me and some other students, we're looking at Japanese art, Japanese music, of course, and all that sort of stuff on a cruise ship. That is, I got like 4 spots left if anyone's interested. Just come talk to me after that and we can make that happen. So enough of that. Let me introduce you to these 2 wonderful ladies over here, all the way from Italy and all the way from Naples, Florida. So we got 2 people here from the Italian countries, right? Thank you for coming. Let's give them all a welcome.
Is the green light. I am so thrilled to be here, and I'm glad that you did the introductions because I don't want to talk about me. I want to talk to you. I am Dr. Lois Carmie, and I want to, at the outset, before I forget, thank Dr. Chimarusti, Dr. Maria Rocca, who is the chair of the Integrated Studies Department, who, when I brought this little book to her, this little gem, I said, I'd like to do something a little different with this. And she said, well, then do it. So I did. And she allowed me to select the text. She allowed me, it's just incredible. She's a wonderful, wonderful chair. Also, I would like to thank Matt Ryan, who is in charge of the international office here. He's the assistant director, and I'm not saying his title correctly, but I think you know who Matt is. He's wonderful. It's a positive thrill to teach with Professor Romano online and now to have her here. I'm pinching myself. Let me talk about Yes, I Can. The background of dance and music that we all take for granted, I certainly did. It inspired me to write this book because the protagonist, some of it's fiction, some of it is actually true. It's a dear, dear little book. I thought it was a children's book. It turned out to be more of a parent book than a children's book. The protagonist, as you see his lovely little face, he lived by the sea, but he couldn't balance on the seawall. He fell off the seawall. He was supposed to be eating and feeding himself. He whined and had his mother do it, and there was some stern conversations between them. In other words, he was different. And the beginning of the book is not lazy, you understand, but different. And he was different because he operated to a different song. And standing here in the Bauer School of Music, I remember before I went to law school, I thought, let me see the possibility of maybe attending Bauer. And then life took over, and I did go to law school. Back to the protagonist. At the very end, so he's feeling different. People stared at him. You can't traverse the seawall. What's the matter with you? You can't even balance on telephone wires, for heaven's sake, you fall off. So I think the only one who really understood him was his mother, and he said, I have a dream. And the dream was, well, during some of the winter storms, I'm originally from Boston, and the seashore, Bruce gathered people together, all animals, underneath the deck of the house, and the illustrator actually did put in a harp underneath there. He sang the swan to sleep. I'm going to fast forward here because at the very end of it, which is so strange that I'm standing here, the reason that he was different is because he was a conductor, and he wanted to conduct, and he did. So the evening of his debut with the Boston Symphony Orchestra, of course, his friends were all in the front row. So, going back to differences, it dawned on me that inclusion, which is what I've been teaching now for so long, starting with Regis and fast forwarding, inclusion started with my father. And I just realized this long after this book was printed, because he had polio. Welcome to COVID years and years and years ago. And he had infantile paralysis. So what does that mean? That means he had leg surgery. He was in an iron lung for a while, and so his leg surgery caused him to limp. So what do people do when people are different? When you see a child or a person that's different, you stare. And I can remember that the staring was not pleasant at all. And they weren't staring because they wanted to say hello to him. They were staring because they probably didn't know what to do. He's my first dance teacher, limp and all. But I remember this pathetic expression on some people's faces, and he graduated from Harvard University when it was pretty much almost impossible to graduate from Harvard University. So, now getting back to Maria, Dr. Rocca. The Yes I Can course is about what the arts do for persons with disabilities. If any of you have ever I always taught music and art to K through 12 students too. You have the child in the classroom who is going to fall out of the chair, or he's going to make ridiculous noises, and the math teacher says, you just better watch out for him. Put him in the back. No, put him in an art or a music class, and you'll see a different person. You'll see a different language. Nobody's asking him to ingest information and regurgitate it. It's a couple of people here that I know that I've taught with before. You see the difference. So, Yes I Can is about what the arts do for persons with disabilities, and I'm slashing that with exceptionalities, because it isn't disabilities, it's giving the right tools, and then you'll see somebody shine. One of the subject matters in the text that I've been allowed to teach: art, music, dance, life affirmation, morality, religion. All of these different things that we have these dialogues about with total respect for one another. There is a student in this audience that has taken my class, and so I'm hoping that you'll hear. Last 10 minutes, we'll open it up for questions to you. So, moving ahead. I outreached with Dr. Rocca's encouragement, not permission, encouragement. Yes, go do it. To several people in other countries and University of Siena. There are two professors. Professor Romano is one, and Professor Alessandra Viviani was the first one. She has a legal background, and I'm skipping here because I want to also to know the connection between law and disabilities too. But in any event, I outreached, really never having done this before and not really sure what I was doing, but I said to myself, yes, you can do it. So I did it. And it opened up an entire new world of bringing the United States to students from FGCU to Italy. It's one of the most thrilling experiences I've ever had to have our students. One student said to me, young lady, if we hadn't had this kind of a class, I would never, ever go outside, probably Fort Myers, never mind to Europe. I can't say enough about the interaction. So then, I was introduced to Professor Romano, and we did the same thing. This time with PhD students, master's students, with the caveat that I said, as long as the freshmen and the students here that aren't PhD masters are included. And she said, of course. There are no words to describe it. I mean, there just aren't. The connection between law school, I had always wanted to go to law school, and the deaf students that I taught, do you know what? I'm ignoring this. I want to show you some pictures of some real live heroes, which is why I wrote the book, Yes, I Can Dance. The connection between teaching disabled children, some of them, not all, some of them had handicaps because of abuse. And this thought of mine, yes, I've always wanted to go to law school, turned into, I'm going to law school. And I practice in the area of care and protection of children and juvenile delinquency. Now back to Naples. There's lots that can be done. What do the arts do for persons with disabilities? We talked about that. It opens up a different world. It's the difference between failure, societal failure, and blossoming. So here's a little Yes I Can book. Down here in Naples, there is a program called River Park. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. It's River Park after-school program, and it's for children and families that are 35% below poverty level. There were 35 of them, some of them with disabilities, and some of them with no disabilities. I have book releases from these people so I can show you. This girl on the right-hand side, Shayla, has autism and other neurological problems, would scream at the top of her lungs, "I'm the best dancer in the world." She never had a dance program. She was the best dancer in the world. I always agreed with her. Manny, the one on this little boy right here, had to have an aid because he has no usage of his arms. This little darling person right here, I suppose I should use this pointer, but I'm not going to. This little boy right here, Devin, at that point was 4 years old, has Down syndrome, and this is where all of this came, all of the sign language that I had used back in Boston came into play. This boy here, AJ, has no usage of his legs. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. So I walked, there's Devin. So I walked in, and they said, your task is to teach these children dance, voice, and performance. And I swear to you that my response to, there's the director, to the director was, that's wonderful, because it was. But again, what was I going to do? So Caitlin has cerebral palsy, and her life is in a wheelchair, and the only thing that she can move is her hand. So what do? How the arts are beneficial to persons with disabilities. You put an elastic band, from my dance studio, you put an elastic band with bells, and then you play music. And that girl kept perfect time to the beat. And this is not incredulous, of course she would. She's never been given the chance. How many dance studios have you ever been involved with their deaf and multiply handicapped persons? You don't have to answer me because I know. So then there was the performance. How did she perform? She performed with this blessed woman here, Lynn Clark, and as the music started, she was her dancer. I wish there was some music to go along with this so you could see how it's totally unbelievable what happened. So AJ, the boy on the sitting on the stage, has no usage of his feet, but he used to put his hands in the tap shoes. Now, how are you going to stop him from tap dancing? Tap dancing? Okay. So he had an aide, a very big young man from Jamaica. And I said, would you get him a chair, put him on the chair, sit him up on the chair, hold him so he doesn't fall out. If you ever saw him tap dance, your life would change. And he tap danced. He loved it. So they went to Caitlin. Okay. I could go on and show you more pictures about this. But what do the arts do for persons with disabilities, exceptionalities? You can't put a price on it. So there's some of the chapter subject matters that I told you about that's in the text. By the way, I have been invited to bring this course to the Bauer School of Music, thanks to Dr. Chimarusti, and I hope that you'll consider it. So here we go. There is a wonderful article centered on inclusion that was done by Kathy Gray of the Naples Daily News. The collaborative online international learning has exploded. It literally has wings of its own now. And of course, the service learning opportunities brought Best Buddies, one of the main chapters of Best Buddies, to campus. Now, I am going to introduce to you Professor Alessandro Romano from Italy. I am pinching myself that she's here because we taught internationally over. Now she's visiting professor here for the month of January. And she is going to now just tell them
The magic, no, I'm joking. So thank you so much for this wonderful introduction, and thank you also for the opportunity to share with you what we have modeled through this collaborative online international learning. As Dr. Carme said, I don't have any background in music, no background. I am an associate professor in teaching and learning methods, and I am a coordinator of a national certification program for teachers for special education. So, professional development for teachers who can work with students with learning disorders, disabilities, impairments is my job. But when we received the proposal to create this very collaborative online learning path, both for the Italian students and for the FIGCU students, I was pretty enthusiastic. I was thrilled about, because we were during the pandemic. There was not the possibility to travel, and this could be the possibility for my students to confront, to engage in a dialogue, in a multicultural dialogue, in an online expanded classroom with the students that have other background. So we have modeled this collaborative online international learning in which students from different background, bachelor's degree in integrated studies, master's degree in education or in organizational consulting, PhD students in learning and innovation in workplace, work together and prepare and draft a project work about how to adopt performative arts for inclusion as a way of empowering, giving voice and express the talent and the potential of people, from children to adult people with disabilities, mental issues, learning disorder, whatever. So, oh, thank you. I will be very fast.
Don't be fast.
Okay. So I just want to tell you something more about this experience and why it was so thrilling and why we were so enthusiastic about. Because first of all, we put together people that didn't know each other, and we asked them to work and collaborate, and it worked. And for the Italian students, you cannot take for granted that Italian students are familiar with English as a second language, but they did it. So what we have learned through this collaborative online international learning is that you can overcome barriers, limits, boundaries. And the arts, the performative arts, and you are expert in this, offer you a powerful tool to promote social inclusion and to let all the people participate in the community. And you can allow them to be part of something, to be part of a group, to be part of a community, to express what they have inside. This was pretty demanding because it requires to co-design and develop this model for this collaborative online international learning. And we have spent almost 3 months to co-design together this program. But we are very proud of this. So our future development will be just to repeat this experience and try to engage more students from several other departments like law department, international relationship department, and so on. And also we hope try to engage practitioners and future professionals like you that can teach students, for example, from the education subject, education matter, how to use and how to integrate arts in their work with people with disabilities. Finally, and I want to just give you this short taste, it's very interesting also to consider the transformative potential of an experience like this for all the people involved. There's something very transformative in the use of art for promoting inclusion. And it's transformative not only for the people that you can empower, that you can help to express themselves, but also for you as trainers, as teachers, as educators, as musicians, in the things that you can do. Just consider that the title of this book is Yes, I Can Do. So when you feel frustrated, when you get frustrated, when you feel that you cannot do something, anything for another person, just think that you can do. And he or she can do it. I think that we have almost finished it. And I think that now it's important for us to hear your insight, feedback, and also your questions. And I know that you have received the paper in which you can write down, you can jot down your impressions, but we would love to hear from you.
And don't be bashful. Grazie.
Oh, you should say grazie.
We would like to know, do you have any questions?
There are two.
I'm going to bring the mic around. So I saw a hand back here. If you're lucky, I'll trip like I did earlier, and you can all watch it.
Well, I don't technically have a question, but I do want to talk to you guys. So she said that one student in the audience that took this class, that was me. Yeah, that's me. So I took this class in spring of 2021, where it was still relatively new. It wasn't something that was like fully fleshed out yet. But when I tell you that this is probably the best class that I've taken in my entire degree, like I'm being very, very serious about that. From an educational standpoint, I'm a music ed major. I got to really learn and grow as a person and really got to understand like what it takes to think outside of the box, because more often than not, as an educator, you're gonna get students with disabilities, and you're gonna get students who you're like, well, I can't teach them to sing, so I'm just gonna put them in the back of the classroom, which happens more often than not. Also, I think this class would be very beneficial for music therapy students as well, but I genuinely think that everyone should take this course. I got to I was on Zoom, or like the knockoff Zoom that Canvas uses. And I got to talk with people. I sadly was not able to be a part of the class that got to talk with students from Italy. So it was just FGCU students, but I literally got to sit there and talk with people from all different walks of life and see, like, we not only talked about our own struggles and our own disabilities, but we also got to talk about like the people in our life that have affected us because of that. And genuinely, I've learned so much. I learned so much in that class. We got to talk about music, so it was really cool to talk about music because, I mean, hey, that's our lives. But then also getting to talk about like art and theater, but then you get to talk about like life affirmation and what do you, like, literally she posed a question of like, what does it mean to have a good life? And what does a good life look like? And just getting to sit there and talk to people about what they think a healthy and productive life looks like. Or we talked about morality and whether or not a person is born good or born bad, or are they born that way, or do they become that way because of their circumstances? And getting to talk with people and just get to learn and grow. And like I don't even think I've told you this, Dr. Carmie, but I've actually read her book, her children's book. I ran into it in a store, and I just sat in the store and I read it and I read it and I read it over and over again because I was broke at the time and could not afford the book. But but I did read. It's just I attribute my success in that class to Dr. Carmie. Like, if there's ever a person, if you take anything from this presentation today, take the enthusiasm that Dr. Carmie has for this subject and everything. And I'm gonna get off my soapbox now. But this class is amazing, and please take it. Please take it.
Sam, is it an easy A?
Okay.
Don't say it's an easy A.
It is an easy A if you put in the effort. Literally, you write blog posts every week, and then you talk to an organization that deals with people with disabilities and how they incorporate humanities in the arts, and you write a paper. That is it. Now,
comment.
I still got an A in the class because A, Dr. Carme is amazing, and B, she understands that we all fall short, and that as long as you participate, like literally you show up, you talk, you literally talk the entire class, and that's it. But yeah, it was amazing, it was wonderful. It's not easy, it's not an easy A unless
No,
you
it
actually do it, then it's an easy A. You just have to do the work.
And if Sam
Thank
turned in
you.
his work, he would sing to us at the end of the class. He did.
She wanted me to sing a couple times. It's a whole thing.
Can you guys pass this mic down?
That's a good endorsement.
It is a good endorsement. Thank you, Sam.
So I was just wondering about like outside of like teaching and using music therapy as a tool for people with disabilities, a large thing that I'm super passionate about is making performance accessible to people, to like everybody, you know. How can we as musicians who host recitals and host performances here at Bauer, how can Bauer as a school make itself more accessible to people with disabilities of all kinds? Like whether it be like, you know, non-able-bodied people or neurological disabilities, like how can we better improve our performances to make it, you know, accessible?
I'm looking at Dr. Chimeristius. I'm going to answer that.
Well, I think one thing we can do, and I know Christoph isn't here. I don't think he's here. Dr. Burnett here. One of the things that we have a community outreach committee that I don't sit on, but we are actually trying to bring retirement communities, if we can just start with them, bringing them in.
Yes.
But it would be great, folks like Shell Point, maybe some of you played at Shell Point, right? We're trying to bring those communities in on buses. The pandemic has kind of put a halt to that, but aside from that, what I'm thinking now, because I didn't even know this existed until I met Dr. Carmie, is perhaps reaching out to these folks, right, and bring them here on buses. I mean, we certainly have the facilities. We have a way to make it happen. We just got to do it, right? And then of course, you know, that'll cost a little bit of money. So we got to talk to Biernacki to see if we can make that happen. But there's wonderful potential here. We just haven't tapped into it.
Yes, the first thing that I was thinking about when you said that was River Park. River Park is an extraordinary group. The most unlikely group that you would ever put together in a dance performance. Dance performance, they don't even have lunch money. But the group pulled together. If I said, and I did, I would like tambourines. Why? Because we did a tambourine routine. They bought tambourines. Well, what about tap shoes? What about tap shoes? There was a dance organization that donated several pairs. And I had this huge boy who had autism. I always had to look up to him. He had an enormous tap shoe. They bought him new tap shoes. River Park, I cannot say enough about them. I would say something ridiculous and they would say, that's fine.
I think I
didn't
can
say
speak
something
for all of Bauer
ridiculous.
School and say we'd be interested with working with them. Can I get a yeah?
Let me add, if there are students, I mean, Dr. Carmie and Dr. Alessandro Romano will be the contact here, but you know, there are funds available. I write grants all the time, and I get grant money from the university. And if any of you guys are interested in doing something like what they're doing, you know, it's filling out a couple of pages and $1,000 that you can work with in trying to engage these students. So there's help there from the university. It might not come from Dr. Biernacki, but there's a lot coming from up top, the administration. So there's grant money there for you to make this work. As individuals, as students, you can make it work.
And I would like to cite that a couple of us here in this row actually do have an RSO in the Bauer School called the Coalition for Collegiate Musicians of Color. And like our whole thing is accessibility. So working with you guys would be really interesting to us.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
The accessibility, when you look at some of the slides where they're performing and they're standing on stage and everybody's hands are up in the air, right? If you ever saw when we first walked in there, and obviously you understand, run up the stairs, run down the stairs, jump off the stage, you know, all sorts of things. More to what the arts do for persons with disabilities. Structure, kindness, absolute outright love. And look what they did. It still gives me goosebumps. It will always give me goosebumps. We would love to work with you. And you know how to write a grant. That's wonderful. It's a real skill. I would rather go to law school again than write a grant. But when you have that talent, right?
So I have a question, kind of on behalf of the music performance students. A lot of this I know is like geared towards educators and therapists who are working in the music realm. But I'm curious, as we graduate and we move on to higher level programs, how we can use these approaches as, even though we are performers and not necessarily educators foremost, even though I'm sure it will come up in our professional lives, how can we kind of integrate these approaches into what we choose to do if it's not necessarily in a classroom or in a therapy setting? Are there applications for performers to use these?
That's an excellent question. I never would think that River Park was an avenue for performance until I was actually there. I think some investigation. Who knew that I was going to walk in there and do that? I have to think about that question. You have my contact information because I would love to answer that question.
Can I answer that?
Wonderful.
You certainly may, Dr. Chimeristi.
I was going to say, and Sophia, it is a great question, and I'll say this. I mean, I went into, just as a personal, I went into historical musicology, right? I'm stuck in the archives, and here I am teaching ukulele to folks with dementia. I mean, you never know what's going to be thrown at you, and so I certainly think it's a great idea as music performers, as music educators, as music therapists, no matter what you do, makes no difference, I don't think. I mean, this is my personal sense.
Yeah.
She's a lawyer, and she's working with these kids with exceptionalities and adults.
Yeah.
I'm a historical musicologist, and so it's nice to have, as you and I were just talking, is to have a couple of hats, right? You're a vocalist, but you can also do what they're doing, right? And so I think it's a great skill to have, right? And you can make it work.
Yes.
Thank you for this question. I just want to add the experience that we have in Italy, okay? So, as I told you, I don't have any background in music or performative arts. But this is kind of a certification program that I coordinate. There are musicians, orchestra directors, because they are applying for a new specialization in order to teach special needs students. So just open your mind and keep in mind this other perspective, like the potential educational perspective of your work.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Okay.
Hello.
So my question is, with this course, it's offered here at FGCU, correct?
Yes.
Is it only offered in the springtime, fall? Like, how does that all line up? Because I know that some courses are only offered in the spring or the fall. I just wanted to make sure on that.
I can comment on the ones that I'm teaching now. I'm teaching 2 sections right now. There is no time off. There is also another one in the summer. There's also another international one beginning in March. Yes. But Dr. Chimeristi, speaking of this particular, teaching this course here, you're thinking about next fall?
Well, we're talking about trying to get it started in the fall, but it's really up to Dr. Bernacki and Dr. Kimberly Senamore, right? I mean, I tried to get them here because I think it's a really important topic. I'm very big on inclusion and diversity and this sort of thing, and so we're going to try to get it started in the fall. And I will say this: what is it offered now? Is it a humanities or?
It's humanities, 1020.
Okay, so if it might be offered as a humanities class, but I think what we're trying to do here is actually get it in as a music course.
Yes.
Right. That's what we're working on.
Oh, I love her reaction. Did you see that? Okay. Because one of the reasons that I came to visit, this was supposed to be just a very hello, how, and then I am pinching myself because you're here. It's wonderful. Is to have the interest. If you have an interest and enough students who will register for it, I'm sure that gives the message to Dr. Baranaki.
Can you tell the students what COIL? How many of you are familiar with COIL?
Coil.
Okay,
One person.
Maybe you can address that so they kind of know what COIL is.
So it's called Collaborative Online International Learning. It's a part of your course that is taught in collaboration with a foreign facilitator from another university. So You take the class, the online class, and there are students from other university with another facilitator, probably with different backgrounds that work with you. And you can share part of your learning path, part of your course together, make some assignment. So in our case, the assignment was a project work about how to integrate the use of art in future professions and so on, in the future works of other people that were attending. And then you have the possibility to share, to create a network, to dialogue and to discuss with students from the opposite part of the world. And I just want to, I'm not here to make an endorsement, but I'm here to publicly thank the Global Engagement Office. Here there is Michael McDonald, who is the director of the Global Engagement Office. And just because we are talking about collaborative online international learning, the Global Engagement Office was very precious in helping all this process. So just thank you, because if I am here and if we are talking here about this wonderful experience, it's thanks to you and thanks to your office. And so just keep in mind also the international possibilities that this university is offering you without moving from your home. No, I'm joking. And saving money. No, I'm joking.
Are there like COIL courses available, like, or will there, is there a potential for COIL courses to be available specifically like for music courses in the future? That might be more of a Dr. Chemerinsky question. Like, is there a potential that like we could, I don't know, start taking some of our curriculum classes through a COIL program? Like, I mean, especially like for a lot of the vocalists, like, that'd be kind of sick.
Well, I think the issue that we're trying to work out right now, as many of you know, I'm the program coordinator for the Bachelor of Arts music degrees, right? The one that's only been here for 3 or 4 years. So we're trying to work out, the problem we're having is where we're going to put it in the curriculum.
Yeah.
That's the issue, right? You guys already got 120 credit hours that you have to fill. Yeah. You don't need another course, right? Mm-hmm. Nothing fits.
Yeah.
Right, and so we're going through accreditation. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts to this. It's not just add a course. It's not that easy. So we're trying to work out the details.
But it is something you guys are like looking at for the future, like for courses within Bauer.
We're hoping to make them. Yeah. I mean, I think the idea is that it would be a Bauer course in the fall. But again, I have no say in whether that happens or not. I got to be very careful with what I say.
I'm just going to add that my name is Matt Ryan. COIL is kind of a new initiative that we started at FGCU about 1.5 years ago, and we've probably had a total of 8 to 10 courses that have a COIL element, and it comes in various different forms and shapes, and it depends on the 2 partner faculty and how they want to work it. Sometimes it can just be a collaboration with 20 students there, 20 of our students here, they collaborate on one project. It can be as simple as a simple Zoom, but the idea is to gain perspective on other cultures on the topic at hand. I think it works great with music courses for sure. Certainly works excellent with this course. I have a question to add as well that I have for you guys.
I apologize, I couldn't see you. I
Let's get out and snuck in the back. But I will say that we are going to try to introduce more and more COIL courses, and it really depends on getting faculty interested first. And we could get more faculty interested first. We're trying to figure out how we can actually label them as COIL courses so you know it's a COIL course when you register. That's a little bit of a ways in the future. That's going to be a little bit more complicated, but we're trying to get as many faculty interested in COIL and introducing them to partners in COIL as much as we can, because there's real benefits to the intercultural learning without having to do a study abroad if that's not accessible for you.
Well, I think if we had a 3-day excursion for free gelato in Florence, you'd have a scoop of people who'd want to go.
Is that Florence, Florida?
Florence, Florida, yeah. Florence, Italy. Right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I'm just going to add my question related to COIL is when you guys were doing your COIL experiment, you had several students on the Italian side, several on the American side. You're discussing a topic that can be considered sensitive and certainly has different cultural perspectives. Is there any moments that were awkward or aha moments where you as facilitators were like, wow, I didn't expect this, or this is really interesting and our students really gained
I can tell you that there was a precursor, sort of, not warning, but to that exact effect. Be certain that if someone says something like, well, I'm not going to say, but whatever the difference would be, just make sure that you're respectful. And my students were wonderful, and so were yours.
Yeah. And the other aha moment is that, well, as I told you, Italian students, you cannot take for granted that all the Italian students are very familiar and fluent in English speaking. And when we began in the first week, I saw all of them pretty shy, but they try to participate, even if their fluency was not so good, but they were there. And they want to express their presence and their interest in what we were sharing together. They wanted to take part in the discussion, they want to be here. Also, there were also some students with learning disorders, and they tried to speak English. And when they don't have the words, we lended the words for them. This was very powerful. And in the end, they present an entire project work in English. That was like unbelievable. 4 weeks, 1 month, working together every week. They present an entire project work in English. An entire. So I think that this was a pretty my haha moment as co-facilitator.
One other thing, yes, it was in 4 weeks, and it was PowerPoint. And my students were intimidated, I know, by PhD students. If you ever saw the camaraderie and the genteelness, they appreciated that the Italian students had difficulty speaking English. It was just wonderful. And then we all learned how to use WhatsApp. And they have, I never knew what that was, I know now. And they have a list of contact numbers that they're still in touch with. It's endearing when you watch what happened. Plus the fact it was good work.
We've got time for one more question, so I'm going to bring the mic back over here.
Yes, thank you. So I was wondering, and this is kind of a question for all three of you. I know you said that there's a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that we're trying to get implemented, as well as COIL courses, all of these ideals. So my question is, what can we as students do to help with that? I know you said you were looking to kind of get proof of student interest as well. Is there some sort of petition maybe that we can sign to show our interest as students, or is there something that we can promote just to help this stuff get moving in any way? Is there anything that we can do to help you guys along?
That's a lovely question, and I think that if the course is offered and you register for it, I mean, I think that's...
You know, what might help in the interim is to fill up that form and say, I want this course.
Oh, bingo.
Write it on that sheet, and I'm going to collect those right after, and I'll take them up to Dr. Bernanke, and then, you know, let the gods decide. So,
The gods would be you, by the way.
yeah, I mean, you guys make this happen. So if there's a strong interest, we'll, you know, so fill out that form, and I'll collect them right after.
All right, can we please give a lovely round of applause to Professors Carme and Romano?
Thank you very, very much. It's a joy to be here, and to have you here, too.
Both contact informations are on the top of that form. Since you're about to hand it to Dr. Chimarusti, maybe snap a picture if you want to keep those emails to stay in contact. You could always just contact me as well, and I will forward their contact information to you. So you will return these forms. Do you want them on the music stand or up here?
Yeah, just set them on the music stand on the way out.
Wonderful. Keyword. Your keyword for today. I don't care if you like it on pizza or not, but it's pineapple. Thank you guys. You're wonderful. See you next week.